Can good design shape a better world? At Monocle's Quality of Life conference in Barcelona this September, we'll be putting that question to the people who already are. Join leading designers, architects, and creative leaders as we explore how design intersects with culture, business, and everyday life. Plus, great food, excellent company, and plenty of Catalan charm. Find out more and book your seat at monocle.com/conference.
This is Monocle on Design Extra. It's a short show to accompany our weekly programme where we discuss everything from architecture and craft to furniture and graphic design. I'm Maylie Evans. In Finland, the Lahti International Poster Triennial is marking its 50th anniversary, and with it, a striking reminder of the enduring relevance of these examples of printed matter. First held in 1975, the event has grown into one of the world's most respected poster design competitions, drawing submissions from top talent across the globe. This year's edition received entries from 2,000 international designers, with only 240 works selected for exhibition. Subjects covered in these designs range from cultural commentaries to bold environmental statements and reflections on freedom of expression. It's over to Monocle's Petri Burtsoff, who brings us this report.
In an age of fleeting digital visuals, the poster, rooted in public space, print and provocation, proves it still has the power to grab attention and stir thought. And there's no place better to take stock of where poster design is today than at the Lahti International Poster Triennial, one of the industry's key events hosted at the Museum of Visual Arts Malava in southern Finland. At the opening ceremony of the event, which has been running for half a century, I caught up with Marion Robinson, who chairs the prestigious event. I began by asking her what makes for good poster design and what set the 240 works chosen for the exhibition apart from the nearly 4,000 posters submitted to the competition.
There's definitely a common thread in these posters because they simplify very complex ideas into visual forms that are approachable to the general public. If you compare poster art with contemporary, like modern art, this is more approachable in my opinion, because you don't need to spend a lot of time with the work to really understand what it's trying to communicate to you. And that's coming from the poster history. This is a form of communication.
Speaking from a visitor's perspective, sort of for someone who comes and checks out the exhibition, and there's quite a lot of works, 240 works in the space. How do you go about sort of creating and curating the visitor experience with so much to see?
I think you really need to be prepared for the visual overload that will face you when you enter the exhibition space. The categories are there, so you could approach them via categories, or you could just make your own routes and really spend time with the posters that speak to you.
I suppose that's the thing about posters also. That's the kind of environment where they're meant to be. They're not meant to be like the Mona Lisa in a room alone. They're supposed to compete with other posters and grab your attention. So one could almost say that maybe they're meant to be experienced in this way, in this sort of like fireworks of color. And
That's so true. The posters are always surrounded by something. Maybe it's the cityscape, maybe it's people, maybe it's other posters competing for attention. And in this exhibition, you will see that it's from floor to ceiling in all directions, and it's really facing you.
Poster as a form of graphic design traces its roots all the way back to the late 19th century, when the French artist Jules Chéret combined illustration and bold type in compositions that promoted the cabarets and dance venues of his native Paris. To get a better understanding of why this age-old art form still thrives today, in a world where we are inundated with visual messages, I chatted with the Danish poster designer Rikke Hansen, who was the head of the international jury at this year's Poster Triennial.
One of the things that is for me, really what I love about doing posters is that you can allow yourself to be creative, you can spark curiosity, and you can break rules. If you're designing a book or a lexicon, there are certain things that needs to work. But in a poster, of course, depending on what is the purpose of the poster and what is the content, people need to understand it. If you want people to go to a rock concert or if you want them to buy a certain product, but again, there's so many possibilities in terms of playing visually and techniques, and to surprise people. And I think people can't see it now, but I'm smiling a lot because what I love when I'm teaching my students is we are basically training our curiosity and our play. And it's fun. It's basically fun to do posters.
I'm also interested in learning about sort of how poster design has evolved over the decades. I mean, this is the 50th year they're organizing this event here in Lahti. And if we were to go back 50 years and look at the entries from that year and compare them with the entries this year, can we find any sort of like general developments that apply across the board?
I was born in 75, so the style and the way that you design posters at that time, you didn't have a computer. You were doing things by hand, you were drawing, you were composing, and you were also printing in a different way. And you were also communicating in a different way than you are now. Now, not to be neglecting people or the way they think, but I think some of the you have more playfulness, you're more daring in the design. And the technique today, because you can do so many things in terms of technology, composing, it's quite different. And you're also allowed to do more things now, I believe, than in 75.
Posters perhaps face more competition today because we are bombarded with messages and signals in our lives, all the time, constantly. Whereas perhaps in 1975, life was slower, the posters were maybe, main form of communication in some fields.
We are exposed to so many images, so we also train to see a lot of images, and we can use metaphors. I think we can allow ourselves to be more complex, and then of course also there is, in terms of the poster, and when we're talking digital, there are different demands now. So if you have a screen and the poster still have to be communicative and you have to understand it within a second, it needs to be very simple, it needs to be very clear, or at least it needs to spark our curiosity so that we want to look and see more into it.
The Lahti poster Triennial reminds us that while design trends shift and technologies change, the poster remains one of the most democratic, direct, and impactful forms of visual communication. At 50 years strong, the event continues to provide a platform where global designers converge not just to showcase craft, but to engage with some of the most urgent ideas of our time. The posters of today are still doing exactly what they've always done, stopping us in our tracks and getting us to think. For Monocle Radio in Lahti, Finland, I'm Petri Burtsoff.
The Lahti International Poster Triennial's accompanying exhibition is on until the 7th of September 2025, and that's over at the Lahti Museum of Visual Arts in Malfa, southern Finland. That's all for this week. If you're eager for more design stories, then listen to our main programme, Monocle on Design, airing on Tuesdays at 8 p.m. London time. Or if you prefer print, of course you can pick up a copy of Monocle magazine, available on all good newsstands now. Today's episode was produced by me, Maylee Evans. Thank you very much for listening.